Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another edition of Titan Talk. I'm Isaiah Kilgan with me as usual, and we brought in a new guest that you may not be familiar with. We've got Nick from the programming team because we've got a really cool system that Nick and the team have been working on.
This is what you were waiting for, chat.
Some of the gameplay feels when it comes to movement specifically, and we're going to dive into that. But before we do,
exciting
first of all,
stuff.
How's everybody doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I got a cherry twist
There you
Alani
go.
today.
Oh,
I know it's
check at the
early for the
beginning of
Alani,
the
but
show.
it just is hitting the spot
I
today.
know.
I was kind of in a grumpy mood before the show started, and then I took a sip of the Alani, and it just set me on the right track.
Awesome,
So.
cool. How about you, Nick?
Doing good today. A lot of great work going into this movement system. Glad we're finally showing.
Pull
it
the
off.
mic closer to your face, my guy.
Taking a look at it. I'm really excited.
Awesome. Well, before we hop into that, we did have a patch that's hitting live servers kind of as we speak, with a
is
lot
so
of
good.
balance changes and some bug fixes
Fantastic
that we wanted to run
changes
through
here.
with you all. We posted those patch notes out on social media, but since they went out probably 10 minutes ago,
Yeah.
there's a
Talk
good chance
about
you may
them.
not have seen
People
it.
need
So
to
we're
see
gonna go
this. It's a
through.
W.
Yeah, so we have heard your concerns
Yes.
about the objective meta, right? I think there was a little bit of a
I typed a few essays
I
in
don't-
there.
Maybe misconception is not the right word.
I typed
but
a few essays in the
people were
ambassador
thinking that
chat,
we had made these
as did
changes
Fine OK
specifically
and
to
somebody
benefit
else.
people, right? And from my
Scream.
conversations with the level design guys, who Matt Marcus is going to be on the show on
Few other
Friday to
people.
talk about level design, this was never intended to be a new player thing. It was more to try and rebalance the objective health to be appropriate to the way that gold scaling had
Yes.
changed in the game. Unfortunately, it had a completely unintended effect of just making it too easy to blitz down objectives too quickly, in large part because of objective health, and then also because we buffed Sunbeam Bow, and Broggies is really good, and Ama Aspect's really good.
Yeah.
So we pretty quickly did a hotfix to address this as quickly as we could.
Yeah.
It has a couple other balance things that maybe snuck into it, but mostly this was meant to address that, objective meta issue that people have been feeling.
W changes.
So there may be more balance coming later this week or next week or something. I'm
Absolutely.
not sure. But we pushed this out as early as we could to address the issue. So
Cool. Let's run through it. For God's Merlin, we adjusted the timings of his basic attacks just to better match his animations, and we made adjustments to Frostbolt's timing and blending just for better feels for people playing Merlin, hitting those combos, just to kind of make sure that he feels really good when he's weaving those basic attacks and firing the Frostbolt. For Conquest, the big one that we talked about. So we pretty much just completely reverted those base health changes to Fire Giant and Gold Fury. So Fire Giant's base health has been increased from 4,500 to 6,300. For example, at 15 minutes, Fire Giant will now spawn with 12,000 HP. Gold Fury's base health has been increased from 2,200 to 2,750. Fire Giant will spawn at 5 minutes with 4,400 HP. And then the Ancient Fury's base health has been increased from 2,560.
This is
to
a hot
4,200.
fix, so this is
And then the
immediate.
Pyromancer and the Naga's base health has also
Today,
been
most
increased
likely,
from
or it's already in.
1,800 to 2,250.
Or going in right now.
And those will spawn at 10 minutes for the Pyromancer at 43.
Basically reverting all of those changes, which I already think the objectives were already too easy to kill. I'm going to be honest with you.
You'll note that we tried
Yes,
to do a
they
better job of
clarified that
explaining
because
what
I
this
said it
actually
was-
means
I
for
said it was
when the
confusing, and then
objective spawns as
Somebody
well
in
than
the
we did on our
ambassador
first
Discord,
notes.
not
We
a
mentioned
not
that
a not a
we felt like
dev,
we
but
weren't
another
clear enough
ambassador was
about
like, "How do people
what
not
the
know
change
this?" I'm
actually
like,
meant
"I'm
by
not
that.
saying I don't
We
know it. I'm
didn't
saying
frame it
it's
too clearly because
confusing."
The time of Ancient Fury spawning is
When you say you're
variable
decreasing
based
the
on
base
how many
health
Gold
of the
Furies
Fire
you kill
Giant,
before they
not
die. So
everybody
I couldn't give you the
knows
exact number,
that
but
that
we'll
means
spawn with
it
more.
still spawns with
All right,
10,000
moving
or
on to
12,
item balance.
10,200
Blink gonna be
because they
getting
don't
a
know
buff
that
here.
it's
We're gonna be
gaining
reducing the
health per
cooldown
minute
from
even while
240
not
seconds to 210
spawned,
seconds.
right?
Again, kind
It's
of
just
in line with
worded
the ongoing kind of
confusing.
experiments and tests that we're doing with Blink. Still trying to find a happy medium for the relic, but in this
Because all other
version
camps
of
spawn
Blink,
at
we
1
feel
minute
like
or
the
at
cooldown
you know
could be
at
decreased
0
just a
or,
little
or
bit.
Yeah,
close to it.
And as we test it, we may find that it could be decreased even more, right?
Because
We
everything in the game
there's a
scales
lot of
health
other
and
interesting
experience.
suggestions that we're still playing with.
With
Again,
health
this was
and
kind of
protections.
a quicker hotfix
Yep.
balance thing than we normally
So-
push out. So we kind of just wanted to step to the next phase of the test and say, hey, we recognize that Blink is maybe a little bit too long right now. Let's try it like this. Again, we don't think we're done. We're going to keep experimenting with this. I know everybody has a lot of feels about Blink.
Absolutely. Sunder,
Blink
another one in
needs
the
to be
rogue
moved
department. We're
down
gonna see a
to
nerf.
180
We're gonna be
seconds
decreasing that per
with the
level damage from
opportunity
6
for
to
you to
4.
take
Got a buff
30
in
seconds
OB6.
off per
Pretty
kill that
strong,
you
so we're just
get
tuning it
within
back
5
just a little
seconds
bit.
of blinking.
Yep.
That's my proposal.
Could do a
So you could
lot
get
of
it down to, like,
damage
2 minutes.
to people.
Yes.
You blink in there, get 3 or 4 kills,
Chile,
you
up
should
next, we
be
fixed an
rewarded.
issue where this was sharing the cooldown with high.
Fuck, Sunder got nerfed? Brother, I'm advocating for Sunder to be taken out of the fucking game. And that's not even a joke to like BMU. I'm advocating for it to be taken out of the game. It is not healthy for the game at all.
Going to be seeing a nerf, going to be decreasing the power on that from 65 to 50.
Yeah, and I know that the movement speed is the thing that people are maybe most concerned about Erendite. Again, this is
it's just an
quicker
objective,
balance patch
secure
to try
tool.
and get some things in.
It just
but we are
there's
still
nothing
looking at the
exciting
movement
about
speed
it.
that
There's no
Erendite
outplay
provides
potential.
and kind of
It's an
deciding
RNG
the
dice roll of who gets their Sunder off
direction for
when
that
it's at 500.
All right, Avenging Blade up next. We fixed an issue where the movement speed
Erendite
and the
nerf
shred
W.
applied to non-guard targets, so that should be another
Blink
big fix,
buff
especially
W
when it
needs
comes
more.
to the
Sunder
objective
nerf
plan.
W. Avenging
Feeling
Blade.
like those objectives were just getting shredded too quickly, so that should be a good fix there. And then moving on to another set of items
Reduce
that were
damage
really
dealt
big
to
in
structures
that
and jungle
kind of
bosses by
objective shred
50%.
meta.
W. Sunbeam
Brockie's
bow
Hawk
nerf
and
reduces
Sunbeam
damage
bow
to
both
jungle
gonna be seeing
and
nerfs.
jungle bosses and structure by
Brockie's Hawk gonna be
50% W.
reducing the damage to structures and jungle
Just
bosses
make it back to
by
Smite 1,
50%,
Sunder. I
and that
agree.
same
Just have it
change
be
is
an
happening to Sunbeam
anti-shield.
bow.
Yes. Basically, we felt like it was a decent amount. Like the damage felt good
Skill
against
shot.
minions and gods, but against structures and jungle bosses, it just could be used to get things done way too quickly.
Yeah. All right, another set of changes that we talked about on the show before.
Yes.
The Obsidian Shard and Titan's Bane shifts are live now in this hotfix. We've talked about them a little bit more.
So now they're going up to
they're gonna be
25, but
seeing
they're going to
an
be a
increase
lot
in
more
price, but
expensive.
the penetration is going to be getting bumped up for both of those items.
Still going to be my favorite item? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And do note that the tooltips.
Like I said, I'm not advocating for it
So
because you
it
like
will
it, like
say
we
15%,
DM about it. I just
but,
don't think it's healthy for.
Yeah, I think it says backwards.
Yeah,
on
I just
the
don't think it's
comment.
healthy for,
Yes.
for Smite.
But the tooltip says the wrong number.
Yes.
It is giving you 25%, and we did increase the cost accordingly. So we think that should help with some of this tank meta, especially like, once you get to like 3 items,
Right, yeah.
it can be very hard to kill a tank. Yeah.
Cool. All right, and then last up for item changes, Warrior's Axe is going to be seeing a nerf. We've seen an emergent meta where this is being built on carries a whole lot, so going to be making some changes there. We're going to be decreasing the strength from 15 to 12, decreasing the true damage base from 40 to 30, but increasing that heal base from 20
They
to
tweeted
30.
it on Twitter. I don't
It,
think it's an official
is-
patch notes thing that'll get something. It's
when-
just a hot fix.
Every role is building a starter item. It's probably just too good.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, our balance philosophy has changed, I think, more towards buffing than nerfing. But when you have just like one outlier, we like to try and rein that one back in versus buffing up everything
Right,
else to
yeah.
that level.
Cool. All right, that is it for item changes. Do have a few bug fixes that we wanted to call out. Merlin, there's an issue where his stances and the flat cooldowns weren't being respected properly whenever he's switching stances to other abilities, so that should be fixed. We fixed an issue where Merlin's ability 1, the effects would track dead enemies. We fixed an issue with Merlin's Elemental Mastery VFX. And then we fixed an issue with Merlin's ability and enemy coloration. So whenever your ability is on top of the enemies, the colors were looking a little bit off. So that's been fixed.
Yeah, and I will say I've heard a lot of feedback that Merlin may be released a little bit weak. We are continuing to look at that as part of our balance overall. He is a little bit harder god to play, so it's possible that his win rate and performance will increase as people get more used to him. But it's also possible he is just a little bit weak. So we are keeping an eye on that.
Cool. Well,
I
that
think
is
he's weak.
it for the hot
Not
fix. Those
very
patch notes
weak.
are live out on social media
Little
and
bit.
Discord if you
Yeah, a
want
little bit weak.
click the link and check out
Tsukiyomi
everything
win?
in detail.
Probably
but
never,
should
brother.
be hitting live servers just about now. So if you want to hop in and play with all the changes and give us your feedback, definitely let us know.
But don't play yet, because you have to hear about this cool stuff that Nick is working on. So,
Absolutely.
So before we get into it, Nick, maybe just can you tell people a little bit about who you are, and because you've been on Smite for a long time.
A long time, yeah.
You were tech director on Smite 1, I remember. But yeah, tell people who don't know who you are just a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm Nick. I've been on Smite for 9 years now. Joined, I think my first day was the release day of Jingwei.
Okay.
Oh,
Smite
nice, yeah.
So came in on that, and yeah, I've just kind of been a gameplay programmer on the Smite team for who knows how long. I was gameplay lead for 4 or 5 years, tech director for a couple years, and now I'm just advanced programming with Smite 2 and just kind of doing whatever it takes to make this product as great as possible.
Awesome.
Him to play for Jingwei. He's not a developer. He's a programmer. So
and
the
then,
devs
the
will
thing that
say,
we're here to
"I want
talk
this
about
character to
today
do this."
is
He programs
movements.
in.
Yes.
This thing
which
makes somebody
Every
gets
time we
knocked
try
up
and have a
for
conversation about
40
movement,
units.
it's like talking
and
about
blah, blah, blah.
art,
He's
or
the programmer,
music.
not the.
We were talking about Kellen, how hard
Not
it
the
is
dev.
to talk about music. I think that movement's kind of the same way because it's a lot of feels, and hard to put words to it.
Kind of like
give us kind of the overview
physics
of what we're looking at here.
Of the game.
Yeah, so technology we're looking at is kind of the bread and butter of Unreal 5, and it's kind of their save movement system. It's this ability for the server to tell you what the game state is exactly, and it be the real authority on everything, but still give you the ability for your local client, when you push a button, for that action to happen immediately. You're not waiting on the server to say you're right or wrong. You're just acting, animating, affecting immediately, and the server will come back and correct you. And this whole system's about using the save moves that we track on your local client to correct nicely and get you back into the proper position the server knows you're at as soon as possible, with the least jittering and snapping and rubber banding as possible. You'll see a lot of modern games use this. Smite 1 has always had a legacy of jank,
lovable jank,
yes.
But a little bit of jank, yeah.
And Smite 2 has the same artifacts, and we're trying to get away from that, and we're moving to this new save move system to kind of pave the way forward for the next couple of years, 5 years.
Explain it, brother.
Really
Explain the changes.
What
Explain
makes
it.
you feel like a responsive game? That the movement's tight, the movement's smooth. The responsiveness, and like when I hear people play test it, it feels like bread and butter. Like what was a move like Ama? We'll show some videos here in a second, but like
show
she'd get like these little micro updates while you're using your ult or you're using your dash, and you notice it, you feel it, and when it's gone, it just feels right.
Yes. I'll say like there are there are people who are much more sensitive to movement, like little jitters and whatnot, and there are people that are much less sensitive. So you may or may not notice a big difference when you play, and it could depend on character too, right? Because this is primarily for movement abilities, not just running around as much, right?
Correct. Yes, this is our dashes, our leaps, our levitates,
fixing things to make things not feel as like, what the fuck was that?
Over time, which you see in like our stampede item,
solutions.
And characters who slow down for big impact abilities.
Yeah, those. What the fuck just happened? Those type of things.
When we first started testing this, two of the first gods that I played,
Almost 3, how it always Cupid, glitch into people. It's like, where did my fucking 3 just go? Why? Where did my dash just go? Why did my jump act like that?
That just felt so smooth, right? Like it felt a lot better to me. And Amaterasu as well. Like her dash just felt so much less stuttery, I guess I would say. And also I feel like in live right now with Amaterasu, when you change stances and change speeds, you almost always get a little bit of server correction because the server didn't know that you were traveling that fast, and then it and just anytime speed changes, it just leads to these little micro stutters that drive me crazy. And some people don't notice them, but some people are very sensitive to them. It just kind of depends. It's like, are you one of those people that I can really feel if I'm playing a 30 FPS versus 60 FPS game, or 120 versus 240 or whatever the right number is, for you. But or are you not, right? And some people just don't notice, and some people this makes a world of difference in terms of feels.
Yeah.
So we talked about jumps, leaps, dashes, movement speed things, levitates. Any other categories of things that this is touching?
There's flights and there's grabs. Flights is our Jingweis going around on our passive, and grabs we all know from Fenrir and Khepri.
Yeah. Khepri I think is a big one that we've been getting a lot of feedback since Khepri came out that his grab feels.
Somebody has an update right now. Right. Yeah, they fixed the objective health and nerfed a bunch of
stuff.
We
went down this path, right? Was maybe
nerf Sunder, nerf Braggies, nerf Sunbeambow, nerfed a bunch of
sometimes
really
background, sometimes foreground.
Yeah.
And what's the process of making something like this happen?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't have a big call out to Alex Greenstein, who's
Chaos.
Jinx.
who started this big plan. He's always been super passionate, even from Smite 1, making sure the client feels responsive. And now that we're in UE5, we're actually doing it the proper intended way that the engine wants us to do.
We'll do it live.
So he did an excellent job of pretty much building the foundation of where we're building it right now. And it was really hot in December. We got a lot of great stuff we got a lot of great things in, and then we had our big open beta release. So it kind of went into the background for a month or two, and now we're just kind of back on it, and now we're just feeling good with the 60-odd movement abilities we most care about. But the vast majority are feeling great, if not better.
Yeah, and I know we're not quite ready to push this live. I know that Geb just doesn't quite work right yet, and there's I got in some weird states on Athena the other day, but overall, I think it already feels a lot better for the characters that we think are done and are ready. We had a
Show us
test
videos.
yesterday with
some of the ambassadors. Yeah.
You were there listening in. What was your feeling like seeing them play it and whatnot?
My feeling was pretty confident. I mean, the conversation didn't devolve into this is broken, this is terrible, this is worse. They were having fun playing the game, and they lost track. The movement was different, which I consider a win, because if you're not noticing problems, it just means it's working the way you think it is and the way you intend it to be. So, no news is good news in that respect. But we still got issues that we want to chase. Collisions on dashing when you're chasing the character. That we're still working on the feels for that. We still have some iteration and some design decisions to make where we want these collisions on dash not to have like false negatives, or it looks like you hit on your client, but the server told you missed, or vice versa.
Yep. And then I know there's some videos. You want to go over the videos? Is there anything else you want to talk about before we look at videos?
They didn't nerf any ADC items.
Not at the moment. I think the videos
they didn't nerf a single ADC item. They nerfed Broggies and Sunbeam Bow, but specifically on structures and objectives.
Is Amaterasu specifically. So I believe this first video
because it was just doing cringe
like
damage.
Old example or what you currently are playing.
They didn't nerf your
1v1
potential with a tank. They nerfed your ability to split push.
Cool.
And shred objectives, which was already too fast.
Capsules being drawn.
That's what they don't like.
Directions from the server. The green capsules are where the server wants you to be, and the red server is where it finds you at. So it's moving you these little distances every time, and you see these little jitters. This is a simulation of about
so you can see.
ping.
Can you guys see like the little
So if
stutters?
you're on super low ping, you might not notice this, but if you're playing on mid to high ping, you're seeing this. So again, let's watch it one more time. You're saying the green is where the server thinks you should be.
Yes.
And the red is where your client thinks you should be.
Yeah. And if there was
you guys watch
one,
the character model,
that
like it
means
just
they're in
jitters sometimes.
Like we've sent a correction, and the client happens to be exactly where the server was, and we don't need to take an
even watching this, when she's like firing the ultimate, you see those little micro stutters.
Yeah, you
pretty
see her
frequently.
model jitter on the frames.
Yeah. Okay, so we've seen what it looks like currently in live. Now, this is the new example.
I'm going to lower the volume just a little bit so we don't get our ears blown out. So this is the new example. Just look how much smoother it looks when she's firing her ultimate.
It's just going to be a gameplay feels thing. This is not going to be a big thing where like some people might not even notice it at all.
In the right spot.
But like when you play
so basically,
it
like
feels
in that one
smoother.
we saw very few corrections, and the couple corrections that were sent were basically like, no, you're good.
Yeah. One big correction at the very beginning of that last dash, and then two later corrections that was like, oh yeah, we did adjust properly, and we rolled back the movement. You'll see the red on the left there. Tiny adjustment, and then down the line, right on the nose.
Yeah.
Even some people in chat are saying, oh yeah, it looks so much smoother, which is great.
Yeah, and one person in chat's like, I thought it wasn't working until you only got like 4 corrections. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like
they already said
this
quick fix that they did with the nerfs today was a hot fix specifically around objectives. They literally said that in the thing. They said we're changing this because of how it affects objectives, and that needs to be solved right away. They said they're going to be doing more balance, but the patch has only been out for like 4 days. So if they think tanks are too strong, like we might need more than 4 days to assess that. Me personally, I don't feel like tanks are walking around doing so much that ADCs can't do anything. I don't feel that at all. All they did was nerf items and objectives. They buffed objectives and nerfed items specifically that destroyed objectives too quickly. That's what they did.
And there's some lines above the character's head. It's kind of showing over time where the character was and where they're going. So in these two, what we call tweens, they're leaps.
You know how this my Discord is? Yeah, dumb.
Visual information at a glance to see that it's proper. You want these uniform color scales. You don't want to see any like breakages of time or gaps in space. And what's cool is we can see this in real time in our editor. And when we see a problem, we can record it. And this is what the next video is going to be about. If I record this data, I can play it back.
Right.
I could go back step by step, frame by frame, and see all this positional data, all the state data, what this tween's doing, this leap's doing. You'll see down at the bottom, this is my timeline of the different movement abilities that are going on. I do the wheelish leap off of Suku here, and then the backflip over the head. But we have this timeline, and we can scrub frame by frame and see oh, did we have a correction? What happened there? Well, let's see the state of this, and we can go just scrub back and forwards through time and really kind of get an idea of where and what we're debugging.
Yeah, with these new tools, you can really just like hone into the minutia, right, and go frame by frame and really hone in and see, what's causing those server-client disagreements and work to fix them. That's really cool.
Yeah, because it's one thing, like when you get a bug like this, a correction, you don't know what the cause was, and there's no going back, there's no setting a breakpoint in code. But when we collect all this data and we just record it in the visual logger, we can play it back and we can just study it as far as the way we want to.
Just put some lines in the game.
Yeah. Well, this has been, like you said, Nick, an ongoing effort since like what? December of last year, right?
Yeah.
We've been working towards, and we're getting really close. Like we said, we had a playtest with ambassadors yesterday, got a lot of good feedback, got a lot of good notes to go back to the team and work to address. But I think the plan is we're going to cook a little bit more on this and then hopefully do a flash test at some point with the larger player base just to get some more feedback.
I don't think most people are really going to realize it. I think you have to be a higher end player to really recognize this stuff.
Nick is smarter than me and can talk about programming problems better than me, but this is one of those things where it's not like it's easy to estimate how much work is remaining to get this to feel good, right? It's not like I'm building out a UI screen. I know how much time it takes me to build each widget. I can calculate it will take me X days to build a UI screen. This is like theoretical feels. How do I deal with these weird edge
I've seen it stutter before,
in an elegant way with novel tech? And sometimes
I just don't think, like, if they did a flash test, I don't think most people are even going to know what has changed. I'd say only 20% notice those little minute interactions where it's like, why does it feel like my character's like getting stuck?
Where we would like to be.
It's a good change though. This is stuff I think when I talk about like quality of life changes, this is the type of stuff I'm talking about. This keeps the dedicated community feeling better, and that's probably what I like most about Smite 2 is when they fix stuff like this. Is it just feels better to play.
In reality, it's not something we can just flip on and off.
What about the Gold Fury? What are you talking about?
When we're going in and we're releasing this, we're kind of going in full tilt here.
Yeah, they just reverted the nerfs. Yeah,
we're going to be using this, and it will be.
They reverted the health. They reverted the health back to what it was before they nerfed it 3 days ago. Yeah,
finding the edge cases, y'all see things we might know of, but things we're certainly not aware of.
That's what the patch was today. Is they reduced
cranking this out week after week, hot fix after hot fix, trying to make it.
Yeah, they're reverting the changes that they made 3 days ago. That everybody. This is probably the biggest complaint anybody has ever made.
I think it's like, it's again hard.
These objective changes were some of the least liked changes, probably to where almost it was unanimous across all levels of players. Not all levels of players, but all types of players. That this just wasn't good.
Either one is perfect for us. It's just if you think that it feels worse in some way, that's where we start to worry. I think one of the big things
they nerfed the health of every objective by
Sobek pluck. Sometimes plucks
10 to 15% base health, which means everything was, and then adding in Sunder buffs, right? Things were dying. I was literally at like 16 minutes, and there was already like 4 Gold Furies taken, a Fire Giant, and Pyro were already taken in the first 16 minutes.
The whole problem is thinking 4-dimensionally because
you could literally send 2 people to Gold, 2 people to Pyro, get that group up on fire with bombs and Sunders. They can't secure it over you because you have bomb and Sunder, because you can get it to 1500 health. That 1500 health guarantees you secure it, since Sunder's only going to do 500. So the first couple golds almost guarantee that you get Pyro. Pyro guarantees that you get Fire, and then the game's over.
It's really interesting of how it's all interconnected and how
it was just bad.
The data and information.
So luckily, like they usually do, I don't know why people freak out. They listened and we're just like, yeah, we're gonna fix that. Let's revert it back to what it was before. It's like, all right, sick. This is why when somebody came in yesterday and they're like, what do you feel about the patch? I'm like, I don't think it's gonna last long. I think stuff's gonna be fixed, so I don't feel anything about it.
Okay.
Objectives are too weak. Sunder's too strong. Some of these items need to be nerfed more. Erendite, all this stuff, and that's what they did.
Okay.
It was a bad patch. Well, it wasn't a bad patch. The issue is that people don't realize is there's a lot of changes that they put through all at once. Like Sunder wasn't being used at all, so let's buff it a little bit. Sunbeam Bow isn't being used at all. Like only 5% of players buy it. Let's buff that a little bit. Objectives are like maybe a little too strong to keep up with like where people are at with gold in the game, since we nerfed how much gold you get per game. So let's nerf that. What they sometimes don't realize is when you put all of those changes together is when it's like, yo, no, this is bad. But as usual, they hear hear it and they're like, yeah, that makes sense. We're going to actually revert that in 3 days later.
Because
we try something else. So it's weird those same people that were like, yo, stop freaking out about Blink, brother. It's just a test. Those same people are the same people right now being like, why would they even do this? It's like,
not correlate. But how do you
buddy, is this not the same thing? They're nerfing and adjusting bounds to try to solve something, and you're like, this isn't good. That's how we felt about Blink, but you said, whoa, it's just a test. Chris, calm down. And I'm like, well, I don't think it's good.
About anything technical,
right? Same thing. Just if they're gonna test stuff, they'll
programming
test it.
wise,
It wasn't good. All right,
I think that was pretty much all of our quick hits we wanted to talk about today. So we can go ahead and open up the floor for questions since we're about halfway through the show.
Yeah, and I will say we also did have some, while we're waiting for some questions to roll in, we did have some people playing on the Ambassador playtest last night on higher ping. I think Flareboot was playing from the UK, and someone was playing from Washington State, I think, and I think they said it was probably more noticeable for them, right? Or at least it felt really good from their perspective.
That definitely makes sense. Latency is a big factor in how many corrections you see and how far different you are from the server state.
Katao was one of them. So he can give his feelings in chat if he wants to chime in. But yeah. Would this rollback kind of stuff help in improving the my ult went off but didn't situations?
No.
So right now it's specifically for movement functions.
Just no.
Theoretically, could you expand the system in the future to function more on like ability casts, or do we feel like that part is pretty good right now?
That's not good.
With ability casts, you still want the server to be the authority.
Okay.
So we could start your animations, but
what I talked about with Pon yesterday when I played the raw clip.
You were either
when I played the raw clip yesterday, because I submit this for them, so hopefully they can narrow down what causes this, right?
Let's see.
So pushing up here. I know I'm getting attacked by Bacchus here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and aim at the Vulcans
let's see here.
and immune the Bacchus burp stun with my ult to try and get value out of my ult by CC cleansing myself or CC immuning myself while also getting damage on the Vulcan here.
Body blocking and character just kind of interacting, penetrating, and bouncing off of each other was a little weird and awkward. That was kind of like the first playtest.
It's delayed. It's not that bad.
Does this feel weird when I'm running behind it? I think we've addressed that over the last couple of weeks. I've heard not as many people talk about it, so I think we're back.
That was more accurate. So you see how like my arms go up to do the ult.
Not quite a blocking.
It messed up again, but you see how like my arms go up to do the ult. It plays the animation
I would say
sound.
That, like, from my experience playing it, I think it does feel better around anything that you're colliding with, but. Even if that,
what we were talking about yesterday is basically that's like a server-client disagreement. On my side, the ult went off, right? But on their side, it didn't. So we were trying to solve like what is the solution there, because it's pretty much latency-driven. And pretty much what we narrowed down is a lot of times the frustration comes from the audio cue continuing to play. If the audio cue cut at the moment, you know how my arms went up, but they stopped? If the audio cue cut completely when the visual cue cut completely, it would be much less frustrating. When you hear your entire animation go off, from a senses standpoint, when I hear it go off, but the visual cut off within 0.1 second, but it played my entire audio cue, that's where it gets very confusing. So if they also cut the audio to match the visual when it cuts off, that would, I think, lower the frustration with, okay, I just fucking ulted, but all right.
And she's much better.
Let's see. Will this change make enemies' abilities look strange or have hits that look off from our perspective?
No. It should really only be impacting your local character.
Cool.
What you're seeing from everybody else is still
Ravioli,
what the server told you it was. You're not simulating
the CC
them.
buffering.
You're just getting the
I still like,
so
even if they're not fixing the netcode portion.
Like
but then I have to scale back my opinion because it's not even really working the way I wanted CC buffering to initially work when I thought it would work like that. Because of situations like that. I thought CC buffering would solve that,
blinking mid-movement
and I don't really understand why it doesn't.
I saw clips
because if that was my 3 as Ra, where you have to throw your arm up in the air and the heel goes down, and they showed clips of it, you got knocked up, but your 3 was already going off, so it's going off. I don't understand how ults seem to not have that same set of that's what I don't understand.